And we are live. So, what's going on, guys? Zerse here. Today, I have Amy Moore, this cute Chinese Hungarian girl, wants to have a conversation about stuff. So, Amy, go ahead and start the show. What's going on?
Okay, well, hi, Zerse. Thank you for having me here. And yeah, I invited Zerse over here to talk about some stuff. Well, I asked him to do a live chat with me because I'd like to talk about some stuff with him. And I'm going to start off with my own first question. So I have my own reason as to why I make videos about feminism, and I have a reason for being an anti-feminist. One of them being that I have this uncle back in China, and approximately 4 to 5 years ago, he split up with his ex-wife, and his ex-wife got custody of the child. And she, like, when she got custody, and I'm pretty sure that she got custody of the child because she is a female. And 3 years ago, she took off with her child, and she hasn't been seen since, and he hasn't seen his child since then. And I feel like I wish feminists would speak up about this issue because it's very serious and it's unfortunate, and it affects millions of people. And this made me do some research into feminism. And the more I researched feminism, the more I realized that modern day feminists aren't really doing much for the community. And this is the reason as to why I started making videos about anti-feminism. So my question for you, Zerse, is what inspired you to make videos about feminism, and why are you an anti-feminist?
All right. Well, start us off. I kind of dropped the label of anti-feminist quite some time ago, and I'll get into that in just a second. But as to why I criticize feminism so harshly, it's because I can see it's definitely destroyed the relationship between men and women. It's absolutely wrecked the way men and women relate with each other, and it's not conducive to helping our society move forward at all. I mean, a lot of progressives certainly call themselves feminists, but the more I see what's happening with feminism, not just the stupid stuff they do, but the way they demonize men and masculinity at every turn, I think is just not conducive to helping with boys' self-esteem, with helping men and women be in good relationships with each other. Even the way they
Mm-hmm.
talk about femininity is also pretty terrible. Just all around, it's just not a good it's not really a good movement to use anymore. I mean, even the roots of feminism was still rooted in a little bit of racism and even misinformation as well. Very interestingly enough, I put in some research. Turns out 15 states could let women vote before the women's suffrage movement. So women were gaining the right to vote without the feminist movement. It wasn't until the 19th Amendment made every state have women the ability to vote. So I mean, even then, even in the roots of feminism, there's still a bunch of misinformation. And the more I look into feminism, the more I look into the way men and women relate with each other. It's just not conducive to our society. It's just wrecking the way we look at each other. I mean, now there's a backlash to feminism, a group of men that are distasteful of women. I'm not necessarily talking about MGTOW, although I can talk about that any other time. But just in
Mm-hmm.
general, there is a lot of disdain for women brewing, and there's a lot of disdain for men that's already been here for women on women's side and feminist side. It's just a bunch of people disliking each other because of the genitals we have, and that's why I despise feminism.
And that makes sense because you can't really go against MGTOWs for their misogyny because feminism has created such boundaries between men and women, like you said, over genitals. And it's quite
Yeah,
ridiculous how women it's like women aren't even trying to fight for equality anymore because the way I see it, especially in the Western world, we don't have anything to complain about. We're basically equals, and it's more of a fight for power rather than a fight for equality now. So
yeah,
I
that's exactly what it is. Go ahead.
so you can't really, yeah, I can't really blame some men for being against women and being against feminism because I can totally relate on that level. Like I said, my poor uncle, he hasn't seen his kid for nearly 3 years just because of his gender, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine just the other day, and that's not the first time I heard a story like this, but he told me he had a cousin who had a couple of children, and they broke up, and he couldn't see them because he couldn't pay child support. And the one time he did get to pay child support and was offered the ability to see his kid, he came in the house and saw his children was sitting on the lap of his ex-girlfriend's boyfriend, and the guy was already dealing with a lot of mental problems as well, tore him up, and eventually, he committed suicide.
Oh,
And like I
geez.
said, yeah, exactly. That's not the first time a man has killed himself because he didn't have the ability to see his children, which is one very interesting thing to me, if I might add, that growing up a lot, I used to hear a lot of bad stuff about men in general. And one being the stereotype about deadbeat dads, and and this is usually I hear more about black guys than I do white guys, but it's all the same that there's
Hmm.
lots of men who don't want to have children, don't care about their children, and yet you have the men's rights activists, which a lot of people dislike. But I mean, really, if you reduce the men's rights activists to their brass tacks, it's just a group of men who want to see their children. It's just a group of men who want to be able to have rights to see the babies they helped create. And that's really what I hear a lot from MRAs. And they get made fun of a lot, from just feminists and even other people in the manosphere aren't too fond of MRAs, and I don't really find any of them to be bad people. I mean, I'm sure there might be some bad MRAs, but I don't. I just see a bunch of men who want to be able to see their kids.
Hmm. And speaking of child support, my uncle is still paying child support, even though he hasn't seen his kid for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and one interesting, I don't know, do you know who Tommy Sotomayor is?
No.
Yeah, I think you would. Not to be mean or anything, but he's. I don't know if we can call him pro-black, but he's a smart guy. That's all we need to know. And one
Hmm.
thing he said, one of the most interesting I heard him say is a lot of women use child support as pay-per-view. That you have to, if you don't pay child support, you can't see your baby. You can't see your kid. And he's like, well, I mean, aunt, uncle, cousins, ex-boyfriend, new boyfriend doesn't have to pay to see the kid, but the father has to pay to see the kid. And then he said something that really stuck out to me. And he says, I've never heard a kid say, if my dad would have paid child support, I could have become a doctor or I could have become a lawyer. But I always hear a kid say, if my dad was in my life, I could have been a doctor or I could have been whatever I wanted to be. Which I think is a powerful statement because I don't think a lot of young ladies and especially feminists don't really even think about the effects that men have in their kids' life. And a lot of them have become very selfish and controlling with their children, which is another reason why I certainly despise the way feminism even talks about men and their gender roles and the influence that they have on the kids that they produce.
Yeah, I think that if my mom ever took my father away from me, I don't think I could ever forgive her for that. And I can't believe that there are women out there who do that to their children without thinking about the consequences.
Yeah, it's I don't really know what they're thinking, honestly. I don't really know why these young ladies or why these people don't even think about the effects that fathers have on their children, because I mean, and there's lots of different studies. I put in a little bit of research into this to see, and even then I actually grew up without my dad living with me. I do get to talk to him and see him, but I know firsthand what that pain is, you not being able to see your father. And I also have kids, I mean not kids, but cousins who also grew up without seeing their dad a lot. They would go years without seeing him, and I can see the effects that an absent father has on their children. And, that's just me personally, and then all the research I've conducted. And I don't really, it's a strange thing to me. The conspiracy theorist in me feel that there might be an effort to demonize fatherhood and masculinity, because it's just so strange how men have such a profound impact on their children, and yet no one in the mainstream media wants to talk about this shit. And no one wants to tell women the fucking truth that you should be a little more, thoughtful of the men you're going to have sex with, and you need to be a little more thoughtful about the effect that man's going to have in his children's life.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have a question for you now.
Hmm.
So what brought you to my videos? I know I did leave you a comment on one video, but what made you want to binge watch the stuff that I made?
Well, first of all, the way I got you was I noticed that a lot of my subscribers were subscribed to you, and I noticed that you had left some comments in my videos. So I decided to check you out, and I really liked your videos. You have a great sense of humor, and I can really relate to your ideologies and your perspectives. And speaking of what we were talking about before, about how children can't see their fathers, there was this one video that I really liked that you made, and it was, I think it was called "Fathers Can't Even Have Father's Day
Yeah,
Anymore."
yeah, yeah.
And
Men
when
can't
I
even have
watched that
fathers.
video, it was so ridiculous how people were saying Happy Father's Day, Mom, and it's like, wow. I mean, even being a father, you get this sort of criticism, like women are more women have been like feminism has made women so powerful that like they even get Father's Day now, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. Someone showed me that video, and I saw it, and I was like, wow. I mean, the amount of jokes I can come off, and even then, just not even just the jokes I can make, but the fact that if this was a one-off instant where this was just one example of fathers getting dogged out, I don't think it would have mattered too much. But the mere fact that there's so much propaganda against men and fathers is what really made me want to have to make that video because like I said, growing up in my life, I used to hear shit about how about deadbeat dads and how men aren't shit and all that jazz. And even in my personal life, one thing that kind of really influenced the way I actually tried to go about dating girls was trying to be a better man or trying to be a good man so I could have children and be with a good lady, because a lot of the stuff I was really told about women, really just how awesome they are. I had to learn firsthand that there's some women, they're just evil. You're just now. I've never had the misfortune of meeting a woman who's just evil. I've met women who were bad relationship partners and women who were selfish, but there are some stories of women who are just evil. And the same way there's stories of men who are just evil. So I mean, I had to later in my life I had to realize, I mean, evil is just something that exists in humanity. But feminists always want to paint it as just a one-sided thing of men doing stuff to hurt women. And even if a woman should like molest a child, there's a man there. But if you look statistically at the facts, some women don't molest kids with the man there. Some women, they're just evil. And
Oh,
that
sorry.
it's that skewed. Oh, go ahead. If you have to answer that, I mean, it is what it is. I'll wait.
No, I just ended it.
Okay. Well, going back to what I was saying, like I said, I mean, growing up, I heard a lot of positive things about women, like strong, independent women and all of that. But I always used to hear men get dogged out, and that's one reason, growing up, why I always felt a. I guess you mind do have to answer that.
Uh, yeah. Okay. Hello. Okay, no answer. Okay, bye. So yeah, someone rang my phone and they didn't answer. Great. So what were you saying?
Yeah. So what I was saying is, in the course of my lifetime, I've grown up with propaganda against men and heard about how great women were. And it's only in my personal experience have I learned that there are some really bad women. And through other stories have I heard there's some downright evil women. Like I said, I've never had the misfortune of meeting an evil woman, but I've met some jackasses. So I'll put it like that.
And before I noted that you said that you were trying to be nice to these girls, and well, that some like these girls are evil. And do you think that nice guys finish last? Because I remember you asked me that question, but I never actually answered it in my video. I don't think I answered it. Hello? Okay.
Hello, still there? Ew. I hate this fucking. Oh man, looks like I'm live, but I'm all by myself. For those of y'all still listening, if you can still hear me at the very least, my computer is really old and not that powerful. It overheats constantly. This is what I deal with making news. The computer can handle whatever. So overheats, and the fan is terrible as well. And yeah, I have been reduced to using ice back to calm the computer down because it's a piece of shit. So yeah, that is if you can hear me. I don't know. I don't know if I'm talking to myself right now. But on the off chance I'm not talking to myself, I'm going to keep talking while I try to get my guest back. Yeah, hope everyone's having a good day. You know, hope guys are well while I try to get this on. Mm. Yeah. So, well, I guess I'll tell people what's going on. Right now, the third episode of the Attention Horror Chronicles is finished. And a lot of people are looking forward to seeing that. That will probably be up, if not later tonight, tomorrow. The third episode. And I hope everyone enjoyed it more than the others because it didn't really need to be all that long. So I will just keep it short and sweet. What else is coming? I have a video on the wage gap coming out. I'm gonna try to beat that wage around one time for everybody that's out there. All right. Here's what I'm gonna close it. Actually, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Not yet. Give me a second.
Hello?
Looks like me.
Hello? Hey, are you there?
Yo, can you hear me?
Hello? Are you talking
Yo,
right now?
I'm talking right now. I don't think you can hear me.
No, I can't hear you. I can hear indistinct sounds, but I can't make out the words that you're saying. Yeah, I'm just hearing sounds like buzzing noises, but I can't make out what you're saying. No, I still can't hear you.
Wow.
I'm still getting these buzzing sounds, but I can't make out what you're saying.